Good evening, this is Hound Dog Steve, and I hope this finds you well, and welcome to my channel. And this evening I'd like to talk about the IG Metall Union, and this is about the YouTube/Fairtube effort to force YouTube to have a transparent terms of service so that we all know exactly what is going on, and to help creators. And this group was started earlier this year by Jörg Sprave in Germany, and he managed to get the IG Metall Union in Germany interested in going ahead with negotiating with YouTube. Now, IG Metall is a huge metalworkers union. It's actually the largest union in Europe, and it is a social trend setter. It has 2.3 million members in the auto sector and the manufacturing sector, and as I say, it is the largest union in Germany. Now, I should add here that this campaign is on behalf of YouTubers and YouTube creators across the planet. So this is on behalf of all of us. I've been in contact with IG Metall and I've been invited to join the union. However, I think I'm going to pass on that because any real benefits are only if you are a European resident. But I will be donating to IG Metall to, again, support this campaign. And I would recommend that all of you become involved in this campaign. It affects all of us. This could well play into Article 11 and Article 13, the repressive copyright laws that are being passed through the European Union right now, and I'm not sure whether there's any appeal process, but they have been up in front of the Parliament, and I believe they have passed. So we need all the representation that we can get. So as you can see, this is actually pretty important stuff, and there will be repercussions from the outcome here. And because we're dealing with bodies of people, you know, the EU government, YouTube, Google, these groups are so large, we are not going to achieve anything without some kind of serious representation, and IG Metall is that serious representation. They have lawyers on staff, and lawyers will be present at the Google meeting. Now, why would I be interested in getting involved with a union, you say? You know, this is a pretty socialistic kind of thing to do. But I think it should be apparent by now that we are not going to press YouTube individually. We're not able to form a strong enough or cohesive enough group to be able to pressure YouTube into simply being transparent about everything that they do, about the terms of service, and you know, what you get banned for and what you don't get banned for. This is very confusing. You hear this over and over and over again. So I have decided, along with 23,000 others so far, to join this force. There is a Facebook page. I'll leave all the links below this video, and also in the you find them in the previous video from Jörg. They're giving you an update, and actually there is a breaking news going on where the countdown has stopped because Google has invited them to negotiations, we hope, next week, and so we're really excited and waiting to hear what that is going to bring. But you know, I think one of the things that we really misunderstand about the term socialism is that, of course, in the globalist world, and this has been going on for a long time now, we get this double meaning to words. And so you have the higher echelon political meanings of socialism, capitalism, democracy, so on and so forth. And you have these very same systems taking place at a much lower level, but they're not called that. So basically, the whole idea of socialism has been vilified. The whole political platform through globalism has become authoritarian or totalitarian, in fact, because as I describe globalism, it's absolute control over absolutely everything. And so at that level, just the same as with fascism, you do not need the extremes of the right and the left, and this is always how one depicts the other, and this is to scare the bejeebers out of you. You know, you remember the Reds under the bed scare and the McCarthy era, all to frighten the bejeebers out of you about socialism, communism as a system of government. And of course, you know, both systems, as we're seeing now, are totalitarian. And I think, firstly, this is one of the things that's really confused the political scene, is that governments that used to be fairly centrist have now been invaded on left and right by extreme right and left groups. And unfortunately now they are driving the agenda. But it's getting very confusing because basically, you have a wolf in sheep's clothing within the centrists. And so this is distorting the whole thing. It's very hard to know who to choose when you vote. And of course the selection is narrowed down completely, usually to two parties. You're lucky if you get three. And so you have that whole scenario where we are basically forced to vote for either of these totalitarian regimes. And yet at the lower levels, okay, we practice socialism all the time. If you've ever volunteered, if you've ever been on a parent-teacher association, or if you've ever formed a group, as we have with the farmers market, all of these things, basically, well, where I live, which is a village, we couldn't function, nothing would happen in this village if it wasn't for volunteer groups. And that's what we call it. We call it volunteering, but this is really socialism. When we formed the farmers market, a few of us had an idea. We thought it'd be a great thing for the farmers and for the local residents to have access to fresh, locally grown food. And so we formed a committee, with a hierarchy, a chairperson, a secretary, a treasurer, and we put this all together with volunteers. And now, for the past 9 years, we have a farmers market in our village. The Christmas parade, the Canada Day parade, these are all done by volunteers. Settlers Village, all done by volunteers. This is Socialism 101. However, we are leading independent lives. I run a business, which is Capitalism 101. And so what we do at our level, we encompass all of these systems when it suits what we're trying to achieve. But nothing in our history, absolutely nothing that you can think of, has been achieved by an individual. There was always a team or a group behind that person driving the idea forward. And this is why I'm actually concerned about the Yellow Vest protest, because there is no clear leadership and the demands are very nebulous and there are many of them. Okay, I think that if we are going to solve problems in this world today, we first need to realize that we have to act as a group. And the internet, of course, has made that incredibly easy these days, but we need to keep our demands simple. And the demand of this union and the YouTubers union is that YouTube be transparent with how it operates and its terms of service, and that it adheres to those terms of service. And of course I would like to add to that they are a platform and not a publisher. It's none of their business, except in extreme cases, what people are saying, whether it is right of centre or left of centre. But I think if we're going to succeed, we need to separate these two ideas, these two notions of socialism, communism, capitalism, democracy, whatever you want to call it. But we have vilified, each side is vilifying each other, and we're getting caught up in that narrative and not realizing that for the vast majority of us, probably 95% of the world, are incorporating these systems as we need to solve the problems that we're facing on a day-to-day basis in our communities. If something is missing from your community, people get together and they make it happen. So along with the Yellow Vests, the other thing that concerns me is the splintering of people, the diversity of groups with many varying demands, just as the Yellow Vests have, no clear leadership, and it just turns into a cacophony of voices demanding item after item after item after item and going nowhere because they really don't have any substantive support for each particular group. Whereas if you add together collectively, there is an awful lot of voices, and we're all basically asking for the same thing. And so we need to approach these problems one at a time. We need to clearly define the problem, we need to form a group, and we need to go after that problem until it is resolved, and do not allow ourselves to be splintered, and to realize that this is how we're going to achieve everything that we need to achieve in this world. Now you may think that this video and this opinion of mine, and I will remind you that it is just my opinion, is too left-leaning. For example, the whole portrayal of socialism is that everyone is leaning on the government for a free handout. Whereas when socialism works at the local level, as I say with the farmers market, it was a niche that needed to be filled, and we formed our own group because the government either was not interested, did not have the time or the people to put it into operation. So we did it for ourselves. Now that's what I call independent thinking, independent acting, and filling a need that is actually there. And because the market's been successful, it obviously was needed, because it's been supported not only by the residents but by local farmers far and wide as an outlet for their produce. So I think this is a different kind of socialism that we're talking about here. These are local decisions made by the residents of their area to suit their needs at their particular area, which has its own quirks and special needs and desires. Not every village is the same, not every town is the same, but even within large cities, when you look at Boy Scout groups or Girl Guides or swimming groups or basketball groups, these are all made up of local volunteers working together to fill a gap that was missing by the government. And so, like I say, we need to realize the difference between these two kinds of socialism and not tar one with the brush of the other. And quite often solutions come with just clarity of mind. I know people who are raging conservatives who would never ever admit to anything socialistic, and yet they are members of the curling club, they sit on the board, they don't realize that that's exactly what they're doing. They're maintaining the curling club by their presence. This is Socialism 101, but we call it volunteering, okay? Helping your community. And that's exactly what it is. So I hope this has given you some clarity of thought, and as I say, this is just my opinion, but I think that if we're going to achieve the things that we really want to achieve, the changes that we really want to see in society, we have to start understanding the power of the group, and that is what IG Metall brings to this. 2.3 million people. It has a voice. YouTube has responded to them, and Google has reached out and said they want a meeting. Now, they obviously, if you watch that first video and the second one I've just posted, you'll realize that they actually have themselves together. They have a set of demands, and it is well thought through. So I'm encouraging all of you to go to the links below and join this movement. Join this movement. As creators, we need a platform that respects freedom of speech and has a level playing field for all when it comes to the application of their terms of service. Okay, well, if you've enjoyed this video, please comment, like and subscribe below, and please share, because the YouTube algorithms are messing around with my sharing of videos. They're not putting them out as they used to, so please, if you can, that really helps. And in the meantime, this is Hound Dog Steve signing off, wishing you a very pleasant evening, and we will talk very shortly. See you now. Bye.